Hi, my name is Doenja Oogjes and I'm presenting Weaving Stories towards Repertoires for Designing Things. In this paper, we investigate 3 anthropological approaches and their usefulness in designing with more than humans. We do this in the context of 2 design research projects that employ weaving. The work is situated in the shift within SIGCHI towards posthumanism and more than human relations, motivated by increasingly apparent limitations of human-centeredness in design. Within this shift, one of the big challenges for SIGCHI is the need to decenter the humans towards more ecological, porous, and relational understandings. This is really challenging work that asks us to leave behind how we know and experience things. There have been several works addressing this. However, a big challenge and paradox of this type of work is that we are doing this as human designers. The research is often described from a dominantly human perspective, and it doesn't always account for the creative capacities of non-humans of design research itself, such as materials, tools, and software. In this paper, we dive deeper into this intrinsic challenge of posthuman design. We use Ron Wakkary's designing with theory, in which he rethinks design as an agentic human and non-human assembly that together designs things. We will mainly use 3 terms. The constituency, which is understood as an assembly of humans and non-humans from which designers of things are gathered. The speaking subject, which is the human amongst this assembly, with a unique ability to speak on behalf of. And lastly, repertoires, which speaks to the actions that the speaking subject can take to increase participation of non-humans. We look into our ongoing projects that include weaving activities that I, as a first author, was involved in. I visited the TARP lab at Emily Carr University of Art and Design in Vancouver, Canada, and the Unstable Design Lab at the University of Boulder, Colorado in the United States. In creating the stories, we used first-person accounts and data and structured these as events rather than design outcomes. In the paper, we apply the anthropological approaches to the 3 stories to articulate repertoires. In our first account, we draw from Laura Watt's writing, who presents a landscape ethnography of energy futures in the Orkney Islands, with a particular focus on the unique material elements of place. I describe a series of events of my first time weaving on a TC2 jacquard loom. I saw an opportunity to describe the landscape, including elements such as sample cloths and Photoshop environments. The story itself is structured by a ritual of covering the loom under 2 big pieces of denim cloth to protect it from dust at the end of a weaving session. Landscape ethnography as a repertoire pays particular attention to temporal skills of place and enables non-humans to speak that were present in the events but were initially overseen. It is therefore a useful repertoire for the speaking subject to listen to non-humans of design. Anat Singh offers the approach of noticing differently, which has found some resonance within more than human design research, but remains somewhat challenging to make operational for designers. A key concept in Singh's project is that of precarity, as she argues that the world we live in is defined by vulnerability, instability, and the ruins produced by capitalism. Rather than looking ahead for solutions, futures, or progress, we should look around and attune our abilities to notice what is newly produced in these ruins. The events inspiring the story of following knots occurred during my visit to the Unstable Design Lab, where I helped to warp the TC2 loom. The main event that motivated the story was a knot that formed during this process. I recognized this as a moment of non-human agency in which something was created, the knot, that was not according to the plan or desire of the humans. This motivated me to further understand knots in the warping practice. The repertoire of noticing involves switching perspectives in the narratives, accepting a state of precarity or fragility, and focusing on disturbances. The repertoire helped to understand relations amongst non-humans. While we describe the warping setup, we can also see these moments of fragility in soldering electronics, firing clay in a kiln, setting the intensity of a laser cutter, or gathering parts for assembly. We find the repertoire of noticing through fragility especially helpful in these moments of inviting or gathering the constituency. Lastly, we draw from Bruno Latour's account of soil in Boa Vista. In his writing, he describes and shows the tools of soil scientists that they use to understand, translate, and document the soil. Through this, Latour aims to show us the layers of translation that happen that simultaneously bring us closer to and further away from the actual soil. In this account, I described the weaving events that led us to inquire into a new conductive yarn where we switched from working on a prototyping loom to an industrial loom. While we were not bringing back soil to a lab, we were collaborating with multiple designers in different locations and working with many forms of translations. The repertoire of translations include prioritizing imagery over language and detailed description of tools, materials, and translations. We see similarities between landscape ethnography in the broad, inclusive, and detailed description of tools and materials. The repertoire of translations can also make present how the constituency is navigated by formulating questions through the use of design tools. In this paper, we also discussed 3 lessons for the speaking subject that can be applied in design. First, we have come to understand positions of a novice and visitor as productive. This is in stark contrast with common approaches within HCI that invite experts or domain professionals. More broadly, and in relation to our theoretical framing, approaches of unlearning can overcome deeply rooted human framings in knowledge inquiry that we suspect are also present in the concept of expert. The proposed position of visitor and novice is a fruitful way to practice humility, to unlearn, and to productively not know in design research. In the weaving stories, we experienced a shift away from human perspectives, for example, when taking the perspective of a threat, but also more subtly in experiences of time. For example, we started referring to time as rows per minute or knots per hour. We took material and force breaks. And there were rituals that structured practice, such as the denim cloth being covered over the loom. We see opportunities for increased non-human temporalities to guide practice, which could mean adjusting our own pace, where non-humans might take longer to speak or disclose themselves over different time structures. And allowing non-human temporalities to guide practice could also look like integrating moments of doing nothing, stepping back, and practicing patience. The last lesson is to embrace disturbances as moments of listening to members of the constituency. Disturbances came back in multiple stories, such as the knot that allowed us to pay attention, or generatively, a yarn breaking on a new loom to invite another material into our constituency. We also see the commitment of understanding disturbances as an ontological opportunity, where disturbances is a way of horizontalizing, revealing, and generating aspects of the constituency. Please take a look at the paper for more details and to read the stories. Thank you.